go by Ash, an air pollution specialist in the testing and certification section in the Monitoring and Laboratory Division of the California Air Resources Board, or CARB. I'm joined today by several of my colleagues, Manisha Singh, Chief of the Quality Management Branch in the Monitoring and Laboratory Division, Christopher Dilbeck, the Manager of the Testing and Certification Section, who is my supervisor, Jenna Ostad, Matthew Holmes, Catherine Garrison, and Michelle Dunlop, who are in the Testing and Certification Section, and Todd Sterling and Joshua Simmons from the Mobile Source Control Division. We will start with the presentation by CARB staff and have time for questions, suggestions, and comments in the latter part of the meeting. Please feel free to put questions in the chat. We will answer questions from the chat and call on those with raised hands after the presentations. Jenna will begin with an introduction to the Landscaper Workgroup and discuss the rules for landscape equipment. Josh will cover incentive funding to assist with purchasing equipment, and I will discuss the proposal for a panel of landscapers for future meetings. But before I go on, I see a raise. I'm just going to quickly check that everything is okay. Indelio Medel, is this a question for during the Q&A portion? Okay, I'm gonna, I'll come back to you, Indelicio, during the Q&A portion. Okay, so I'm gonna continue. So let's go through the recap from the previous meeting. We have received 3 nominations for businesses to serve on the panel of landscapers and have confirmed with those businesses that they are willing to serve on the panel. Some of those panelists shared in previous meetings. Our panelists will participate in today's meeting by participating in our Q&A session. We received a question about stipends for panelists. No stipends are available. We are still welcoming nominations. We encourage landscapers to let their legislators know that they want more funding from the legislature. We received a question regarding incentives for larger businesses. These are available in some air districts through the Carl Moyer program. Representatives from the Bay Area, South Coast, and San Diego air districts are here today and can speak to their air districts programs. Some strategies to reduce the need for additional circuits include the use of smart charging switches, where multiple chargers can be plugged into this device into one outlet, and you can cycle through charging several batteries unattended, with the charging stretched out over a course of time to minimize the need for additional circuits. There was conversation around alternatives to gasoline-fueled generators. Devices we call zero-emission generators, often backup power devices powered by batteries, are available for portable power. There are many sizes of these power backups available. It will vary depending on power needs or model choice. People who use generators can use and purchase them as long as they are available. They can also continue to repair that equipment. We have also provided extra time for generators. 0 emissions for model year 2028. Existing equipment may be used and repaired indefinitely. The rules affect manufacturers of new engines. Engines that are manufactured for sale, sold, or offered for sale in California, or that are introduced, delivered, or imported into California for introduction into commerce must be labeled and
deben de ser certificados y tener etiqueta y
year of the engine. Next slide, please. And over to you, Jenna.
Thanks, Ash. So CARB staff are forming this landscaper work group to connect with landscapers throughout California and provide a forum for us to have regular dialogue. We want to make sure landscapers have accurate information regarding the rules for landscape equipment and are aware of the available incentive funding to assist them with purchasing electric equipment. These meetings will also provide an opportunity to answer landscapers' questions. We plan to have 3 or 4 meetings per year, and of course, CARB staff are always available to provide information and answer landscaper questions outside of these work group meetings. Small off-road engines, or SOAR, are spark ignition engines with rated power at or below 19 kilowatts or 25 horsepower used in non-stationary equipment. SOAR are primarily used in landscaping equipment, including lawnmowers, leaf blowers, trimmers, and small chainsaws. Other small off-road equipment, such as portable generators and specialty vehicles, are often powered by SOAR. All diesel and stationary equipment are not part of the SOAR category. The SOAR rules apply to manufacturers for producing new engines, which need certification in order to be sold in California. The rules do not have requirements for equipment owners, so equipment can continue to be used and repaired. And certified equipment in stores can continue to be sold. The recent updates to the rules became effective at the beginning of last year, January 1st, 2023, and the transition of new production from engines to zero emissions will be in 2 phases, starting with model year 2024. Some manufacturers may continue producing engines in 2024 or later. The rules do not prohibit the sale of CARB certified engines, so engines that were certified in 2023 or earlier may still be sold in stores, depending on availability. The transition of new SOAR to zero emission will be in 2 phases. Starting with model year 2024, most new engines are subject to emission standards of 0, and new pressure washers with engine displacement greater than or equal to 225 cc and portable generators are subject to more stringent emission standards. The availability of SOAR in stores will slowly change over time, since certified equipment from 2023 or earlier can continue to be sold. Starting in model year 2028, all SOAR, including pressure washers and generators, are subject to emission standards of 0. However, some manufacturers have the flexibility to certify some engines through model year 2032. As long as they're available, equipment owners may continue to purchase those certified engines. In October of 2023, Representative Lou Correa of Orange County introduced in Congress the Promoting Reduction of Emissions Through Landscaping Equipment Act. And this is used to create a federal tax credit to enable small local businesses and landscaping businesses of all sizes to transition to zero emission equipment. The bill would provide a 40% credit on the purchase of zero emission equipment and accessories up to $25,000 per year and up to $100,000 over the course of 10 consecutive years. This bill has not passed yet, but we wanted professional landscapers to be aware that it's been introduced. If you think this is a good idea, please contact your local federal legislator and let them know. The Commercial Clean Vehicle Credit is part of the Inflation Reduction Act. And here, commercial lawnmowers qualify as mobile machinery. To claim the tax credit, the machinery must be a plug-in electric vehicle that draws significant propulsion from an electric motor with a battery capacity of at least 7 kilowatt hours if the gross vehicle weight rating is over 14,000 pounds. The IRS website is still finalizing the form on how to claim those credits. Currently, it asks to check back on the website for updates. So to summarize, the SOAR rules apply to manufacturers when they produce new engines, and the rules do not prohibit the use of existing equipment. The most recent updates became effective January 1st of 23, and the new standards for manufacturers will begin in model year 2024. The transition to zero emissions will be in 2 phases, and the availability of engines and equipment in stores will change over time. So this concludes our updates on the rules. I'll pass it over to you, Josh.
Thank you, Jenna. My name is Josh Simmons, and I work in the Mobile Source Control Division, and today I will talk to you about lawn and garden incentives in the Carl Moyer program. At the end of a presentation, I have links to additional Moyer guideline resources. The first thing I want to mention is that air districts administer the Carl Moyer program and have the right to focus their funds on local source categories they feel will have the most impact in their area. That means that not every air district will have a local lawn and garden program, and those that do may have more stringent requirements than the Moyer guidelines. But generally speaking, the eligibility is open to both residents and businesses. The requirements are as follows. Scrap existing combustion lawn and garden equipment and replace with an equivalent electric version. At least 2 years of equipment ownership for the old equipment is required. And for commercial applicants, we ask them to be California-based companies that own and operate the equipment in California. Here are the incentive values for the Moyer Lawn and Garden program. A couple of things to note. What's listed in the table are the maximum available voucher amounts, and eligible purchases include the tool, plus as many batteries and/or chargers as the applicant wishes, but the funding is maxed at the values in the table. And on this slide are some useful links to further explore the information that I just shared with you. And with that, I will pass the presentation on to Ash.
Thank you, Josh. Sorry, my video took a second. So I will talk to you on outreach. So I'll give an update on CARB staff's outreach to landscapers to encourage them to participate in this work group and attend meetings such as this one. We initially mailed postcard invitations to landscapers who were listed as having employees in a database maintained by the Employment Development Department, or EDD. And we advertised the work group by Gov Delivery Notice to all subscribers to Mobile Source and small off-road engine lists. We worked with CARB's Office of the Ombudsperson, the Environmental Justice Blog, the California Landscape Contractors Association, and National Association of Landscape Professionals to get the word out to landscapers that we were forming this work group. The Office of the Ombudsperson provided information and flyers regarding the work group to numerous chambers of commerce and business federations, associations, panels, and alliances, including at in-person events. The American Green Zone Alliance also provided flyers and information regarding the work group at demonstration events for the Clean Off-Road Equipment Voucher Incentive Project. We have contacted more than 100 cities and counties in California to request business contact information for a landscaper, gardening, tree trimmers, and lawn maintenance business who hold business licenses in those cities and counties. We also obtained a list of C27 licensed landscape contractors from the Contractors State License Board. We networked at several landscape expos and sought out dealers to pass our information on to the small businesses. The culmination of all of this was a list of about 25,000 addresses to send invites to landscapers to participate in our landscaper work group. We will continue contacting businesses licensed in cities and counties in California. We would also like to solicit your input on how to reach more landscaping businesses to invite them to participate in our landscaper work group. Exciting. As we discussed in our first 3 work group meetings, we would like to make sure the landscaper work group meetings provide useful and relevant information for landscapers. To assist with that, we propose to form a panel of landscapers who would participate in future work group meetings. We suggested that panelists have experience with electric landscape equipment and incentives to make the discussions most useful. Our goal is to ensure various sizes of landscaping businesses are represented on the panel. CARB staff proposed that the panel would have 12 seats, 6 for sole proprietors, meaning landscapers who work by themselves with no employees or helpers, since they make up the majority of landscapers in California. 3 seats for landscaping businesses with 1 crew. The crew might be 2 people or several who work together at the same location at a given time. And 3 seats for landscaping businesses with 2 or more crews. We invite further nominations for potential panelists. These may be submitted by email to landscaper@arb.ca.gov. Please include in your message contact information for the business size, and a description of the business's experience with electric landscape equipment and incentives, if any. Again, that's landscaper@arb.ca.gov. As an update, we have received 4 nominations for businesses to serve on the panel. 3 have accepted. The nominations include businesses from each of the 3 business size groups in our proposal. We continue to accept nominations and will provide updates as we are able. Next, we have Chi Wei Su of Inclusive Action for the City, who will speak of their work. Let me find Chi Wei. Chi Wei, did that work?
Yeah, I think
Awesome.
I can speak now. I probably don't need to share screen or anything. I can just go off with my voice. Is it good time
Sure.
to start, or do we need to wait for anything else?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. I'll just take 3 to 5 minutes to share a little bit about the work that we've done since last summer to engage with some landscaping workers and businesses. A quick intro. My name is Chi Wei. I'm the research associate at the Inclusive Action for the City. We are a community development nonprofit based in Boyle Heights neighborhood in Los Angeles. And so we engaged with about close to 200 landscapers since last summer, really to understand their concerns and needs and what's going on in the industry with the aim to sort of help organize this workers in the workforce and understand the needs of the businesses to serve them better. And what we found is that, well, first we did a little bit of industry analysis in SoCal, in LA County in specific, that we found there's about 35,000 field workers, field landscaping workers, and about close to 7 out of 10 of those workers are operating in informal businesses. And what that means is that's businesses that employ under the table transaction, et cetera, that they're not registered with the state database or federal database. Most of these workers have 10+ years experience, and they plan on working in the industry for another 5 or more years. And the issues that they identified at the time when we were doing survey interviews with them were the electrification of the equipment, which is the focus of this work group, is one of the top concern. And more than 91% of the survey respondent stated that they're concerned with the electrification, and citing the issues either as perceived concern or experienced issue with electric equipment, including efficiency with the equipment, taking more effort and time to complete the work with electric equipment. It doesn't last as long, and they also feared interaction with law enforcement when it comes to using electric equipment. Well, when it comes to using gas equipment when electric equipment is needed. They also cited the concern with this increase the demand for electric equipment on the black market, which they've been experiencing a lot of theft issue when it comes to equipment. It's costly, and also cited that customers are unwilling to pay the premium for the business to upgrade to electric equipment. Some other issues that they identified, a little bit less relevant for this space, but I wanted to share just to provide a more comprehensive picture. Is the compensation and benefits of this workforce, that many of them work many years in industry with relatively low compensation. We found that informal workers earned about $40,000 a year, compared to those in the formal sector is about $48,000 a year in LA County. And both of those numbers are below the living wages for the county. And then a lot of them cited lack of benefits, and this includes health benefits, retirement benefits, etc. And 90% of them said that they would really benefit from having access to affordable healthcare. And again, I just want to reiterate the issue with equipment theft, which is very prevalent. A lot of the people we engage with reflected that without us asking. They just mentioned that they've been seeing this in their work site, which is sidewalk. And, a lot of times they park the truck right outside the house, and then the equipment's laying on the truck bed. And then each time that happened, it cost them $1,000 or plus to replace those equipment. So that's really all that I wanted to share for now. I'm going to post 2 links in the chat. One is for the sort of infographic that we made for this research. And then the other one is a town hall that we're actually going to be hosting next week, Wednesday. You'll see more information on there. It's a space for the stakeholders in the industry, landscaping industry in LA County, to come together and sort of discuss some of these issues and connect with each other. That's all from me. Thank you all.
Thank you, Chiwei. Okay, now we will take questions, suggestions, and comments. We welcome your feedback on the information we have presented today. Please raise your hand using the raise your hand feature, or type your questions in the chat. We will take questions one at a time in the order they are received. Again, please type your affiliation or organization in the chat along with your question, or say your name and affiliation or organization at the beginning of asking your questions.
I think we can start with a question in the chat
Sounds good.
from Greg Knott, who's from Outdoor Power Equipment Institute. It said, Jenna mentioned equipment can continue to be repaired. However, we understand if an engine fails and a certified zero emissions engine is not available, CARB will not allow replacement engines. How does CARB staff expect landscapers can repair equipment that otherwise still has life if previous tier replacement engines are not available for service? So first of all, I wanted to acknowledge that we have received inquiries along these lines from Mr. Knott and others, and have been having ongoing discussions on this. And we have received a letter to our executive officer on this topic, and we are working on a response to that. Briefly, however, I do want to clarify that if manufacturers are unable to provide engines, equipment can still be repaired by replacing parts when that is possible. In terms of the availability of replacement engines, certified engines may be sold whenever they're available. And although the standards have changed as of model year 2024 for most engines, manufacturers may still choose to certify some engines using emission reduction credits.
Okay, thank you, Christopher. I'm scrolling through and looking for the questions. I see the hands up. I think I might go through the chat questions and then we'll take turns to answer the hands raised. So I'm trying to read the name here. I've got Dan, and it doesn't let me see the rest of the name.
We've got Danny Miller.
Danny Miller, thank you.
How do these regulations affect the repowering, replacing the engine of existing equipment? So I think that's similar question to the one we just read from Greg Knott, where engines may be replaced with certified engines. And we have received inquiries about replacement engines and are working on a response.
I'm just gonna take a turn with one of the attendees with the hands raised. And I've got Otonio Jara. If you'd like to unmute and ask your question.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Great, great. My question is about the 40% of the cost of the equipment. Is that the present help, or is gonna be in the future?
That may refer to one of Jenna's slides. Can we go back to that slide?
Yeah, let's see.
This one, this
Yeah.
this tax credit is proposed. It's been
Oh.
referred to the Ways and Means Committee. So as Jenna mentioned, if this is of interest to you, you may want to contact your representatives in Congress.
Okay. Do you know what's the current percentage that they're paying for?
Well, this bill would not replace something existing that I'm aware of. If we go to the next slide, there is this other credit, which is different, but is available for certain things. So mowers were an example of something that could be covered by this, and I believe other vehicle types, which may be less applicable to landscapers, but to some people would be available as well. And these are in addition to other incentive programs, which our colleagues discussed, and some of which will depend on which area of the state you live in. So in your case, if you wanted to share, Otonio, which county, for example, you're in?
I live in Monterey County.
Monterey County. So I believe that would be the Monterey Air District, which we don't have represented here today, as far as I know. But if you send us an email, we can try to put you in touch with your air district.
All right, great.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Christopher and Antonio. Indelicio,
Yes.
I see your hand is up. Did you have a question?
Yes, please. Hello, everybody. Thank you for this meeting. My question is, when and where can I apply for new equipment?
Excuse me, I forgot to unmute.
You hear me?
That may we can hear you. Yes, that may depend again on where you are in the state. Can you share what county you're in?
What? Please.
Sorry. Can you tell us which county you're in? Perhaps if one of the interpreters, if you can pop over to this channel and help clarify the question. I'm not sure if he heard us.
A ver, señor, ¿sí me puede escuchar usted a mí? Soy el intérprete. No le pudo escuchar usted.
Oh, the question was, which county are you in?
De Los
¿En qué condado?
So that's South Coast Air District, I believe.
Oh, okay, yeah, sorry, I missed which county it was.
He's in Los Angeles.
Los Angeles County, yes, so that would be South Coast most likely. It could potentially be Antelope Valley. If it's Palmdale or Lancaster.
Oh.
Yeah. But we do have some representatives from South Coast Air District on with us today who may be able to share more about how to apply for incentives in their air district.
Yes, absolutely. Christopher, this is Walter, South Coast AQMD. Again, on behalf of South Coast and our staff, thank you for inviting us to this working group. I believe the gentleman's name is Inda Lachil Medel. Yes, so after this, I could try to get your name. What we could do is we could get your information. Basically, we have partnerships with lawn and garden retailers throughout our 4-county jurisdiction. So depending on where you are in Los Angeles County, we could try to identify a retailer that's closest to you. When you engage the retailer, they will help you apply for the lawn and garden incentives funding. You will receive a point of sale discount of up to 85%, but it all starts at the retailer level. They will help you identify the equipment. They will help you fill in the application. The application they will submit to us for review on your behalf, right? And then afterwards, after the approval, you will then be instructed to bring your old lawn and garden equipment to that retailer. The retailer will then arrange to have your old equipment dismantled and destroyed. And upon then, you will get your newly purchased and discounted lawn and garden equipment. That's a quick overview of how that process works. But I believe all the applicants here might be accessible to our link, so I could put the link to our lawn and garden webpage. Hopefully that will help. I hope that answers your question.
Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely. Be on the lookout. I'm going to place the link in our chat right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Indalecio and
Thank you.
Walter. We had a question about slides in the chat from Sonia, and Jenna posted a link to the page where the slides will be posted. So Sonia, if you need any follow-up, just please let us know. There's a question from Sandra Giardi from California Landscape Contractors Association in the chat. I understand that the final implementation of the cessation of sale of new gas-powered landscape solar was dependent on first obtaining a waiver from the US EPA. What is the status of that waiver request? So yes, that's correct. That we have a pending request with US EPA, United States Environmental Protection Agency, to grant authorization for these the recent amendments to the rules. We submitted that request in December of 2022, and EPA had a hearing the middle of last year, and the request is still pending. A decision has not been published yet. Question from Kristen Kessler. Would you be able to tell me whether you have reached out to a certain company? I think to clarify and make sure we understand what you're asking, Kristen, it would be helpful if you sent us an email. We could follow up on that.
Okay, should we go back to the hands raised?
Go to a hand, yeah, and then back to the chat.
Okay, so the next hand raised, I believe, was from John Howard. Go ahead and ask your question, John.
Yeah, hi, my name is John Howard. I work for the city of San Diego in the Golf Operations Division. I had a couple questions. One, I wanted to see where golf courses actually fell in the list of CARB's categories of affected users due to these new SOAR regulations. I want to make sure that we're reaching out to the right groups to be able to understand what we need to do. So if we could answer.
Yeah, so thank you for the question, which I think we saw in the chat too. So John, these rules are primarily applicable to engine manufacturers and those who sell engines. So manufacturers must certify and label their engines for them to be sold in California. And retailers or others selling new engines must ensure that they're certified and labeled as well. So the rules do not require users to stop using equipment. You know, as someone purchasing equipment, the equipment that's being offered must be certified and labeled to be offered to you for sale in California. So I wanted to say, you know, for golf courses, these rules aren't specifically directed at golf courses or at people who do maintenance at golf courses. But some of the equipment used at golf courses is subject to these rules. So these engines are spark ignition, as Jenna mentioned, 19 kilowatts or below, or 25 horsepower. So diesel powered equipment would not be subject to these rules. New diesel powered equipment would not be subject to these rules. And equipment over 19 kilowatts or 25 horsepower would also not be subject to these rules. But you know, something like a hover mower, right, could potentially be subject to these rules.
Okay, no, that sufficiently answers my question. So we've been looking into this issue. One of our golf courses, we have over 200 pieces of equipment at that particular facility. And with that, we've done a study, and it's going to take us approximately 7 years and $1.2 million to bring in the power necessary to be able to charge all of the equipment that is under 25 horsepower. So my question is, are there any programs or exemptions for large scale businesses that would need to make a wholesale change like this to be able to meet these regulations?
Yeah, thank you. And I do want to acknowledge again, we did get your email, John, and we have been working on a response. in the case of needing to look at infrastructure upgrades, we would suggest that you get in touch early with your electric utility and talk to them about what you expect to need, and so that they can, be aware of that, and also let you know of any incentives that might be available to help with those upgrades and what the timing might be. And I think in your case, that would be San Diego Gas and Electric, right? So we can try to help make a connection if that would be helpful. And to answer the other part of your question, again, these rules are for new engines, for engine manufacturers. They're not directed specifically at users. There is a provision that allows for police departments, fire departments, and other entities that specialize in emergency response to purchase equipment without California certified engines. If equipment is not available that has a California certified engine. I don't believe that would apply to a golf course, but that's the exemption for users that is in the rules.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Sonia's had her hand up. Why don't we have her ask her question, then we'll jump back to chat. Oh, never mind. I think she just put her hand down. Oh no, here it is again. Go ahead, Sonia.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I appreciate it. My question is, I applied for the incentive program about a year ago, and it's been approved, but the vendor has not contacted me. I've left several messages. What is your suggestion? What should I do from this point forward?
Could you let us know which program that was? Was it clean off-road equipment?
Yes, well, they reached out to me, so I believe it was that one.
Yeah, I would defer to one of my colleagues to advise you on that. Perhaps Todd.
Yes, Sonia, was
Yes.
it the core program?
I don't know at the top of my head. They just reached out to me and they said that, all this new legislator is going to be going across about, we can't be using gas powered equipment. So we applied for a program for the incentive. I believe it was, covering anywhere from between 40% or something of other for the machinery that we need to get for our business. And we've been approved, but the vendor hasn't answered our calls or returned our calls.
Okay, yeah, if you could send either Christopher or myself an email, or both of us an email of what program you're in, and
Okay.
maybe we can do something on our side, maybe. But that's not much detail we can go on. But we can follow up later. Would that be okay?
That's great. Where do I find your emails?
Can we go to next slide?
Yeah, we have the contact slide.
Thank you.
We'll get you in touch with the right people. You send an email to any of these addresses.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we should get back to some chat questions. Jackie Ishimaru Gachina from Gachina Landscape writes, company sizes completely disregard large companies, as does the rebate incentives. A large landscape company is not 5 to 6 people. I think this one came in around the time we were discussing the panel of landscapers. I do want to mention that Gachina Landscape does have a representative who's been nominated and accepted to be on the panel. And we understand that it's a rather large landscape business with, I believe, it's been mentioned, several hundred employees. So businesses with 2 or more crews, there is no maximum business size for that category in our proposal for getting people on the panel. And we also understand the comment about incentives. So in the case of the core program, there was a company number of employees limitation. However, some of the other incentive programs we've been discussing today, such as Carl Moyer program, would be available to those larger companies. We talked to John Howard, which was the next question in the chat. Anthony Avila, you asked about getting a CARB representative to come to an Earth Day event in Whittier, California. If you send us an email at SOAR, we will be happy to talk to you further about that.
And I think Catherine already responded to him.
Great.
And thank you everyone for adding your affiliations to the chat. I think the next question is from Cecil Rucker. The cost of smart batteries and charges for workplace carts and the like.
So if you have a specific question about this, Cecil, we can send you some links, perhaps, to products that we're available of. CARB does not endorse products, but when we are asked about information that we have, we can share. Oh, I see. He asked a question. Can you get the rebate if you have already purchased some of the electric blowers? Oh, that's another question. Okay. Also from Cecil Rucker. And for that question, that may depend on the program. So contacting your air district would probably be a good starting point. And if you have trouble getting in touch with the right people, send us an email.
We're just looking for the next chat question. And it's from Chiwei. Is core funding all claimed, meaning there's no more core voucher?
Yeah, thanks. I'll take that one. That's a great question. Core was open for almost a year with $30 million for incentives for small businesses purchasing zero emission landscape equipment for small businesses. That's currently closed. We'll have to wait a year to see if everybody picks up their equipment. Then if there's any money left over, we'll open up again for a short period of time with whatever little money is left over, probably in the spring of 2025. We have to wait for all the vouchers to expire. But right now, that is closed. If you're looking for funding, I would suggest working with your local air districts. They have funding through the CARB funding, like Joshua talked about earlier. That would be a good source of funding for your equipment.
Should we do one more chat question before we jump?
Yeah, let's do that. Danny Miller followed up with another question, mentioned that he's an outdoor power equipment service technician, and asked, how will this affect repowering of exempt equipment such as agriculture, or construction equipment powered by SOAR? The Federal Clean Air Act preempts states from adopting standards for new engines under 175 horsepower that are used in farm or construction equipment or vehicles. The SOAR rules, CARB's rules, do not apply to those engines, and they will continue to not apply to those engines. And then we had one from Sonia again. How do I apply for incentives? We're in Long Beach, so that would be South Coast Air District, which Walter mentioned earlier.
And Todd has put in the link in the chat, all the air district links. It's that arb.ca.gov/California air districts. So you can find your air district on that link that Todd has posted. Let me look at, I see a hand raised. It's Otonio Yara. Is your hand raised again, Otonio, or is it just the hand up?
And Tyler Stocking has his hand up too.
Okay, Antonio, I'm gonna move on to Tyler's hand up and feel free
I
to
think
put.
Otonio just unmuted.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead. I forgot to remove the hand up.
Oh, thank you. And we could go to Tyler next.
Hey guys, good evening. We've chatted before. How many people are on the call tonight?
56 attendees.
Great, much better than last time. That's good. I'm wondering, I don't know how many questions are left on the panel or whatnot, but I'm wondering if we need to extend. I remember last couple times we've been cut off short on our hour period. Maybe a suggestion to get through more questions. Maybe we go an hour and a half next time to get through more questions. It's just a suggestion. And then I don't know much about what you were discussing on the waiver with the EPA. Can you tell me more what is up with that?
Yeah, thank you for the suggestion, Tyler. We'll take it into consideration as we plan the next meeting. And we are certainly pleased to see many more attendees today than in the last few meetings. Yeah, so in brief, and I'm not an attorney, so I'll do my best here. The Clean Air Act generally prohibits states from adopting their own standards, but California, because of our unique air quality challenges, is allowed under the Clean Air Act to adopt its own standards. And in doing so, there are requirements that must be met, and EPA must grant what's called a waiver or an authorization to California for the standards that California adopts when they are more stringent than the federal standards. So in our case, we did adopt standards that are more stringent than the federal standards, and we submitted our request to US EPA in December 2022, and it's still pending at this time.
So does that mean that SOAR is not valid at the moment? Like we can still buy gas equipment that's in 2024? Like I'm confused here.
So some manufacturers have requested certification for their engines that do not meet the standards that are adopted in California law for model year 2024. And those manufacturers have received executive orders for those engines that don't meet the current standards. And those executive orders include language that they would terminate on the day that EPA publishes a notice of approval of our authorization request. While that request is pending, those executive orders do allow those manufacturers to produce engines that don't meet the current standards.
Do you have I'm just curious on that, if you know when the EPA would approve that, any ideas, or that who knows when?
We don't.
Okay.
We don't have a timeline for their approval.
Okay. I'm done. We're good. Thanks, guys.
We are
Thank you, Tyler.
right. I'm sorry. We are right at 7 p.m. I see a lot of questions in the chat. We'll try to figure out how to answer some of those questions and maybe post on our landscape work group page or something like that. But we wanted to post this sorry, go ahead, Christopher.
Sorry, I wasn't speaking, but I do want to say thank you for all the participation. It's great to see so many people today. Thank you everyone for joining. And we will definitely consider lengthening the next meeting.
Right.
And we have the next work group meeting anticipated to be May 22nd, 2024. So we look forward to seeing people there. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cool.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.